Welcome back, everybody. So now we're going to look at Carlsen with the black pieces, and here I also have a specific theme in mind. I would like to find out how Carlsen plays for a win with black against clearly weaker opponents. Being the best player in the world for a very long time, obviously he would like to win every game, and especially against clearly weaker players. What are his options for trying to create positions that, well, in which he can go for a win, right? So we'll begin with 1d4, and here Carlsen has a number of options available. His main moves, just to point out real quick, his main option is the Nimzo Indian or the Greenfeld, so either e6 or g6 here. And in fact, from my study of his opening repertoire, even if he plays against clearly weaker opponents, he still goes for his main lines most of the time, because they do allow him to play for a win, except for maybe some lines, and we'll get to that. So the Greenfeld here after g6, just to show you one game here against Van Veli, who is 200 points lower rated than Carlsen. So of course Carlsen wanted to play for a win, and how did he achieve that here in this Grünfeld? Well, he went for a line where he actually sacrificed a pawn early on right here, sacrificing a pawn on c7, and the pawn is as compensation. As you can see, the whole white king side is still not developed. White will need some time to castle with his king, and this is the compensation here for black. So taking some chances to create chances, that's how it's done. And like I said, I just want to point this out real quick. Carlsen's definite main weapon against 1d4 is e6, and now either the Nimzo Indian after knight c3, bishop b4, and those positions I think suit Carlsen quite well. There's a lot of strategy involved, or knight f3, and now the declined queen's gambit here, d5. And interestingly, in this position Carlsen has quite a lot of knowledge, and he has played pretty much every move there is, from bishop e7 to a6, c6, transposing to a Tarrasch with c5, or playing the bishop b4, the Ragozin variation. He has played a lot, and he's quite knowledgeable in these lines. But the problem with these lines is they many times they are not that easy to play for a win for. So sometimes Carlsen would like to do something else, and then the Grünfeld is one option, or also the Dutch 1f5 or Leningrad variation. And here he actually, not against clearly weaker players, one has to consider, he played this against Anand and Karana with great success, won both games in 2015, and actually transposed here to a kind of stonewall setup with d5, bishop d6, b3, now queen e7, stopping bishop a3. You don't want to exchange this bishop here on d6. It's vital. You see, black has weakened himself clearly on the dark squares. So black needs to keep this bishop. That's essential. And it really turned out that in these complex, rich positions, Carlsen managed to outplay both of his very strong opponents, Karana and Anand, and won both games. So that also an option definitely in his repertoire to aim for like stonewall type of positions. And also he has played another version of the Leningrad here through this move order against Wojciech. And why am I showing this game? Well, this is actually a game that Carlsen lost, where his opening risk backfired a little bit, I would say, because what happened here is that the pawn on a4 turned out to be a weakness. White was able to win it and black didn't get enough compensation. Wojciech went on to convert. So that is always the risk that you have, quite natural, if you play openings that are maybe not as sound and that maybe lead to more imbalanced positions, that you also run the risk to lose against clearly weaker players as well. Calling Wojciech clearly weaker player, it goes too far, but still he's 120 points below Carlsen. I mean, it's still quite some elo distance there. Now let's focus on one e4 and what Carlsen does here. Well, e5 is his main move, and that is for sure. And then here the Berlin defense is one weapon he definitely employs quite often, but it's not the kind of move you want to play if you want to play for a win. So the other moves that he plays are, well, a6, and he also played, we'll get to this in a moment, the bird variation once, but I don't think he'll repeat that. But those Raul Lopez positions, actually, I think they're quite well suited for Carlsen to play for win, because they're so rich. All the pieces remain on the board, it's very strategic, and Carlsen can try to outplay his opponents. And here in this position, in the past, Carlsen has played the Breyer variation quite often, which is in this position, a knight b8, the knight drops back, preparing c5, bring the knight to a better square on d7, and black sets up like that, and that worked pretty well for Carlsen. And in the recent past, as we'll also talk about in the video about the World Championship match, Carlsen is also playing the Marshall here, castle, and if white now plays c3, then the gambit here of d5. But all these roll-up positions have a lot in common, and I think they're quite well suited for him to play for when he often employs them, but sometimes he also does something else and takes some risks. And for example, here he once played the bird variation, which is knight d4, which is really not considered to be a very sound choice by black, and he lost without a chance against Ivan Saric in the Chess Olympia 2014. He just sacrificed 2 pawns here in the opening, which was too much. First the pawn on d5, and then also the pawn on d4, and that just turned out to be too much, didn't have enough compensation, and Saric consolidated and just won. And that happens again and again when Carlsen goes for rarer lines. We'll see some more examples in a moment. Besides e5, he has also played other moves, namely the Sicilian. Actually, here he definitely plays this against weaker opponents. For example, against Duda in the Qatar Open, I think that's how you say it. He played a Najdorf. I also was quite surprised, in fact, but he played the Najdorf. Actually, in the past, I just see this, he also played the Dragon. But the latest, I think the last time he played this line was around 2010 or 2011, so it's been quite a while. But now he has apparently also included the Najdorf as an option sometimes to play for win, and it worked quite well against Polish Grandmaster Duda. No problems out of the opening. Played this nice move here, knight b4, now h6, provoking the exchange, and when the opening phase was over, which is, I would say, around here, we see that black is completely fine having the bishop pair. The knight on b3 is misplaced. It needs to be able to go to d5, but far away from reaching the square, and Carlsen was very comfortable and won this game. So the Sicilian is another option that Carlsen has in his repertoire. Another one is the modern defense, starting with 1d6. and now g6. And Carlsen has played this against Wei Yi, against Neidich, against Dragan Solak. Let's take a quick look here at some games. For example, against Neidich here. Neidich played a4, and here, in fact, very interesting. I want to get to a specific moment here. That was quite interesting. Carlsen played bishop takes g4, and that sacrifice was a little bit too optimistic, and Neidich went on to win this game. But it shows once again the kind of risk that Carlsen is willing to take to play for a win with the black pieces. But it also shows that it can backfire in some cases. Another game here against Wei Yi, played in Bilbao 2016, was went f5, and probably what's attractive for Carlsen about this modern defense is, once again, it's a lot of potential stays on the board. A lot of positions are about maneuvering and flexible pawn structures. And while it may not be completely sound, it allows him to create winning chances, and that's what he's looking for. And in fact, that went pretty well in the game against Wei Yi, where he didn't have any issues of the opening and could press and did win ultimately. So, returning or summarizing Carlsen's opening with the black piece, how is he playing for a win? Well, one has to say that Carlsen actually does go for his main systems most of the time. That is, against 1d4 he plays the Nimzo Indian or the declined Queen's Gambit, also sometimes the Greenfeld. And against 1e4 it is clearly the Roy Lopez or the Berlin or some other Roy Lopez variation. But sometimes he also chooses some, well, some might consider them not as sound systems, like the Dutch or the modern defense we just saw. But playing these lines also entails some risks, as we saw, because for one, Carlsen is not as familiar. Obviously, he cannot be knowledgeable in all variations, and also sometimes the variations inherently are not completely sound and yield risks, clearly. And sometimes it backfires, but most of the time it still works out because, well, Carlsen's class just shows. So that was Carlsen with black, and now we're going to talk about the World Championship matches. I'll see you again in the next video.